The chart illustrates the amount of money spent on 5 consumer goods: cars, computers, books, perfume, and cameras, in France and the UK. Units are measured in pounds sterling. Furthermore, the UK spent more money on consumer goods than France in the period given. Both the British and the French spent most of their money on cars, whereas the least amount of money was spent on perfume in the UK compared to cameras in France. Overall, the most significant difference in expenditure between the two countries was on cameras.
The provided chart shows the number of leisure hours enjoyed by men and women in a typical week in 1998 to 99, according to gender and employment status. As is observed from the graph, the unemployed and retired men and women had more leisure time than the other type of people. Among the full-time employed people, men had about 45 hours of leisure time on an average per week compared to the 38 hours of leisure time for women. The graph summarizes that the male enjoyed more leisure time than women, and employed people had less time for leisure activities than retired and unemployed people.
The graph shows data between married men and women of the number of hours spent per week on unpaid work. At first glance at the chart, it is noticeable that from all the three categories, without children, with 1 to 2 children, and with 3 or more children, married women spend more hours involved in unpaid work such as housework, gardening, and childcare than expected from men. In conclusion, married women with 3 or more children spent the highest number of hours, yet married women from all categories spent a dramatically higher number of hours for unpaid work than married men.
The supplied bar graph shows data on the number of cell phone and land phone users in 7 countries in the Europe and the American regions. As is observed from the presentation, the number of landline users in Denmark, United States and Canada are higher than the number of cell phone users in these countries. Among these 6 countries, Italian people are highest in percent in terms of cell phone usages, whereas the highest percentages of land phone users are found in Denmark, which is almost 90%. In summary, North America has more land phone users than their cell phone users, and most of the European people prefer to use mobile phones over land phones. The stipulated vertical bar chart depicts the outcome of a survey carried out by the personnel department of a major company, and the survey was conducted among 18 to 35 and 45 to 60 age groups in order to show various elements that influence their job efficiency. To commence with, apparently, among both age groups of 18 to 35 and 45 to 60, team spirit motivates equal proportion of people, that is 60%. To conclude, youngsters give great value to chance for personal development at workplaces. The given bar graph shows the illiteracy rates of different regions of the world, both for male and female, for the year 2000. As is observed from the graph, South Asian, Arab and African countries had a very high rate of illiteracy, while this percentage was very low in developed countries as well as in the Latin American countries. As is presented in the graph, the illiteracy rate among female was higher than male in all parts of the world. In summary, the South Asian, Arabian and sub-Saharan countries had a severe illiteracy rate compared to any part of the world, and female illiteracy rate was higher than the male illiteracy rate all over the world. The supplied bar graph shows changes in employment rates in 6 countries, namely Australia, Switzerland, Ireland, UK, New Zealand and the USA between 1995 and 2005. As is observed, more and more people of working age are employed, and there have been significant improvements for women, although they lag behind men in entering the workforce. The most obvious trend in the graph is that women have lower employment rates in most of the countries in the graph. In conclusion, all the countries in the graph showed at least a 12% increase in employment rates of both men and women over the 10 years.
The bar graph depicts the survey turnout of 1,000 adolescents in 5 countries: USA, United Kingdom, Mexico, Japan, and Egypt. The study tackles the beliefs of the respondents as to what age should one be acceptable to have the rights and responsibilities for marriage, voting and criminal responsibility. Lastly, criminal culpability age limit should begin at 18 years old in Japan, whereas the United Kingdom and the Mexican respondents believe it must be imposed at the age of 15 and a year before in Egypt. It was the USA subjects who saw it necessary to lower the threshold to 12 years old.
The given bar graph depicts the total number of prisoners in thousands, in 5 different countries, namely Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand, United States, and Canada during a period of 50 years commencing from 1930. As is evident in the presentation, Great Britain had the lowest number of imprisonment throughout the initial 40 years till 1980. Overall, the graph gives an impression that, collectively, the crime rate had been more or less the same without any significant or dramatic changes, and many countries shows a dip and hike, which accounts for the fact that there is no specific trend in the context of imprisonment.
The provided bar graph gives information on the 4 types of transports used in one European city during 1960, 1980 and 2000. As evident from the chart, major changes were observed in the usage of cars and buses, and cars become the most preferred transportation type in the later year. In 1960, the maximum proportion of people traveled by bus, about 38%, compared to the percent car owners. To summarize, there was a tremendous rise in the usage of cars for traveling to and from the office from 1960 to 2000.